Okay. Okay. Hello. 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 I just want to say hi to all of you. My name is Dr. Dwalarjin. Please, if you come, the first thing that you do is to share this. I'm going to analyze couple things about the situation in South Sudan. There are three things that I'm going to really talk about, to look into, dive in. First thing is the multiple front that you have seen, so fighting at so many places, so many towns in South Sudan. So I'm going to talk about that. Second, I'm going to look into the analysis of Johnson Olwyn, who have talked about the elimination of non-combats in South Sudan, and then the situation in Juba, as we are talking, the capital of South Sudan. So these are the three things that I'm going to talk about. Please share it so that our people can see it. As we are talking right now in South Sudan, there is multiple front. So there is fighting at so many places in South Sudan as we are talking. And these places, this town, fighting has erupted just this week. We have fighting in Ayut, we have fighting in Patai, we have fighting in Pajut, we have fighting erupted in Pading, we have fighting, people saying it is also erupted in Nasser, and there is fighting in Boer town as we are talking. So this multiple place is they are now in fire, and there's a lot of burning of villages. There's a lot of suffering. So many people are displaced. The United Nations are saying about 180 already been displaced. So civilian, a lot of people are being displaced. People are suffering, and there is looting. So things are in chaos in South Sudan. Things they don't look normal. So how is this one? How are they doing it, and how is it going to maybe end? This one, it will be in my analysis. First of all, if you look at the war in Ayut, has just started. There is the barrack there. So the barrack in Ayut has been looking for some reinforcement, multiple reinforcement. What is happening is that the general who are there, they wanted some reinforcement, they wanted to connection. So the general asked the reinforcement from Unity State to cross the Nile to come to Ayut so that at least they can start fighting. That reinforcement was refalled back from I think a place called Good County, and then it was fought back. They never crossed the Nile. So that one made the forces, the government forces in Ayut, to think about how actually they can get another reinforcement. They want a reinforcement from Bor, and then they're trying another reinforcement from the canal, what they call it. There is a barrack there called PG. That place is a lot of water. So if they can manage to connect, that's why there was actually there was a fight in Mogok, because those people who were in Ayu, they want to escape to that way, but there's a lot of water, so a lot of vehicle will not pass there to reach even to Malakal will be very difficult unless if they have hair lifted. So what they did is that they only have one option. They wanted to open by force the seas. They wanted to come out through Pathoy, going to Wat, and maybe connected with those people who are coming from Pajut and Dukpadiet. That is the only. That's why you are hearing there is a lot of war there in multiple places. That's the reason why you see there are war, is because there are people fleeing from Ayut, and they are coming. They don't have a way to escape to Nile, and going to Bentiu will be very hard. To escape to go to the place of PG and going to Malakal is really very hard. So the only way they can come with their vehicle and tank is through Dukpadiet. And that's why they are fighting in Pading and in Pathoy. As we are talking right now, those places are burning. So that is where there is fighting tension, is because I think IO has clearly said, they are saying they have already cleared the IOT now. So that is the main, is because military that are coming, they are actually meeting with some tribal militia who are there, not government forces. They have not yet met the government forces from Pajut, but there are some elements that are backing up the government there in Pading and in Pathai. You talk of maybe somebody like Garkil Tulchia is a general there. I think he has some militia fighters that met with those who were coming from Ayut, and there they are. That's why there are war there. So now, IO is saying that they have cleared the Ayut. Some saying that 4 generals are still in the tank. They lock themselves inside the military tank. 4 generals, senior general, and the commissioner. They say they are still there. We don't know. Maybe it's going to look like the case of Nasser. If the whole barrack is clear and there is only those tanks, then I think it might be easy. Maybe they will negotiate later on, and maybe for them to come out and get that one is something that is happening in Ayut. You come to Pathai and you come to Pading. IO is also claiming they have captured. We see there are tension. We see the fight. We see pictures. There are a lot of burning in that place. No report yet whether the government is claiming it, but there is fighting, and that's where there's a lot of civilians are fleeing in that region. So now you come to what is happening in Dukpadiet. Dukpadiet and Pajut. Pajut actually outside the opposition. They are outside in the place called Pajut. This place has been a lot of killing from the previous week. So nobody actually is inside there. People are outside. The IO is even outside. And because of these, I think government national security was trying to come in because there's no people, and then they don't know, maybe people are deployed outside. So there was a fight there. Even today, rumors are saying, which I'm going to confirm later, that the fighting already erupted in Bor. So that means if the fighting is going on in Bor and already has actually happening in Bor, it means these places that are in Ayut, Pathai, and these places of Pajut and Dukpadi, they will all be clear. They will fall under the opposition forces. But if the war is still does not actually erupt in Bor, then the government might, plus his ally, they will be able to realign themselves and be able to still carry oppression in those towns. So that is what is going on in the war. In Jagmir, Long Nasser, war erupted there. Update will maybe come later. I will come and analyze in another show. So what are we seeing here? Where are we going with this war? Well, this war actually, in my argument is that it's going to achieve maybe a peace agreement between Riek Machar and Salva Kiir, a revitalized peace agreement. And I'm going to talk about that, what is happening in Juba now about that. Okay, so it may achieve something like that because of this war. Another thing that if it reach maybe those of Bor Town and it reach Juba, that it could be, we can see maybe it will lead to be produce what we call a civil war. And civil war are not very good in a country like South Sudan because we are tribal, because civil war actually takes a long time. And so that's what is happening about the war that you have seen. Many tribal militia are forming ally, but people see this as a war between the main opposition. That means it's a war between the SPLIO and the government forces. any other militia fighting, whether it is White Army, Gilbai, or maybe Red Bell, Tit Kuwing or Tit Kubai, all those militia, or maybe NAS or any kind of other opposition, they are just allies. They don't have, that means they don't have a significant number of forces. So the war is still the war between opposition forces, those forces allied to Riek Machar by president and forces that are allied to Salva Kiir. The rest are just allies. They are just helping. That one has to be clear. Now, you have seen there is a statement out there from some of the militia leaders that are being used, like Johnson Olony. You have seen a statement that he's not going to spare a whole person, chicken. Maybe he say that he's going not to leave anything like a house. And right now, whom are being burned, cow are being actually taken, looting, and nobody is spared now. Children are killed, women are killed, and old people are getting killed. So that means what Olony was saying is already being implemented. Now, this guy is actually not a government commander. He's actually a militia commander. And that is why, the government will use him to do this, because his militia are being used across South Sudan. That's why in my argument, I say, as long as South Sudanese are still using militia to defend themselves or maybe to fight a war, it's going to be a big problem in our country. It's not going to help us to find a solution, because militia usually they don't have a political objective. So for this, and sometimes it can even become disadvantage even for them. For this, militia they're going to have a lot of problem. And as we are entering into civil war now, I think it will be advisable for all the militia to become either organized forces, or they actually become opposition, or they go to the government. In that way, you are fully integrated. And the problem is, if you go to government now, let's say you are a tribal militia, you go to government, your forces, you go to government, you take your community to ally with government. The problem is that government will not recognize those forces as a regular force. You'll always be used as a tribal forces, and this can become a disadvantage for your community. But if you join the rebel, because rebel is not yet a government, rebel is just a kind of people who are fighting for actually to take the government. In that way, you take the government together with the rebel, and then you become organized forces. You will be fully actually integrated as a force. So that one you can live in, but standing alone as a tribal force is going to have a lot of problems. Okay, that is my argument. Now, the Olony, this is the kind of the problem that you get when actually you stand as a tribal force. You will be used, like right now Olony is being used, and government deny you. So you're going to be used, and then later on you're going to be denied with your forces. So what will happen, like right now in Agulek, I argue that Agulek, they're going to switch side again. Because as Olony now get a problem with the government, so government like Atenya clearly stated that what Olony say does not represent the government of South Sudan. So now, if it does not represent the government of South Sudan, that means he's representing the militia fighters. So he's representing his own militia. Now, that means all the militia, what they are doing in Upper Nile operation, they are doing in maybe in Jonglei State, is going to be put on their neck. So it's not going to be the government responsibility. It's going to be put on Olony and his forces as a militia. So now, this one will create a division now. And some of these forces will see like it's a use. So that means they will switch side. They're going to join maybe the rebel group or opposition group. In that way, if they join the rebel group and opposition group, distrust will still be there. There's going to be distrust. And if they are fighting and they are capturing town, maybe trust can be gained. If they go and sit maybe in their area, the trust can happen again, then they can fight themselves. And that's what the government wants. So this is what the cycle continue. The cycle of setting setting them up together. Actually, the way they put it is swallow is the way that they put it in a African proverb that swallow him. After that, you swallow him, I will swallow you. What it means is that, is a fish, the small fish. This is the how the fish survival in the inside the water, maybe River Nile. The small fish is swallowed by a big fish. After the big fish swallow the small fish, another big fish than that will come and swallow it for their survival. The same thing, when you have you are operating as a tribal militia, the tactic government uses is that they will make you actually use you, and then you will harm your own brother or maybe a neighbor. After that, then they will come after you. And that's how actually most of these tribal militia are going to get problem like this. Tribes that are being used that have formed tribal militia include the Nuer tribal militia are being used, the Shuluk tribal militia are being used, the Denga tribal militia are being used, and Murule tribal militia. Now, in my argument, if this tribe knows this, that they are being used, and they really they understand the implication and the consequence of this kind of war, they can fight to themselves. They can rise against the regime, and in that way they will win and form the government. They can form a very strong government actually. But the problem is this thing is not discussed, so it's going to create so much problem. And one of the problems is this, that you're going to see a lot of problems like this. So that means I can actually argue that there's going to be a lot of tribal militia will be used in this war, and there's going to be switching sides. So that means some forces from opposition will go to government, some forces will come to the opposition, and do not surprise if you see this thing like this. Okay, so that one is going to happen in this war. So that's about Oloing. About what is happening in Juba, there are a lot of things happening in Juba now. Last time I predicted that this war was going to end with the negotiation, or maybe to reactivate the peace agreement. Okay, so they're going to reactivate the peace agreement between Riek Machar and Salva Kiir, and this is exactly what is happening now in Juba. So in Juba now, there are approach the region. They wanted to say that there should be peace agreement. Now the government and the opposition in Juba, they are trying to negotiate with Riek Machar even in their house arrest. So they're saying, okay, it's better now we either approach Riek Machar or Juba is going to be insecure soon. So there's a lot of fear with the government that they even thinking of moving the headquarters of South Sudan government to Barghazal. Okay, so now this discussion means like what happened in Khartoum, where when Khartoum was insecure, they have to move the headquarters to Port Sudan. So that's what they were discussing, and for this they say, okay, moving the headquarters from Juba to Barghazal may create a problem. So it can create a lot of problem, like it may even give opportunity to the opposition to actually to capture the town. And some say, oh, no, so that's where we can put a big defense for the town, so that at least the security will be provided more strong in Barghazal. That is what they are discussing. And they say with this, it's better we just do the peace agreement, release Riek Machar, and start talking about peace agreement. Maybe he's going to control the opposition forces, and Kir will control the government forces, and then war is stopped, people go to on the table. So a certain committee, some committee, they were selected, they go and discuss this with Riek Machar and his lawyers, and I think they come up with a proposal that if this one has to work, then there should be equal forces bring to Juba. Riek Machar, 20,000 forces, and Salva Kiir 20,000 forces, and then the rest will be deployed elsewhere. So this is what is going on in Juba now. Okay, so if that one succeeds, it means that we're going to have another, because we're going to have a long time to implement this. Because you see, to assemble forces, 20,000 forces, to come to Juba and to verify a number of forces that belong to who, is going to take a lot of time. And that is the business. That is actually what has been killing South Sudan. Because people now will enter in business. When that one happens, people will actually will get paid. Most of the regional African organization, the Western organization, because they are making business out of land. Another thing is that maybe we can hurt Junubin or people of South Sudan as in general. They can hurt the national army to actually to take control, meaning the chief of general staff in Juba can be hurt by population, by the civilian, by the citizen, to actually to take the charge, to take responsibility and serve the country from crisis. Usually is the chief of general staff. Like Paul Nang right now, if he wanted to serve the country, what he will do is to arrest a lot of political leaders in Juba, starting with Salva Kiir. Riek Machar already been arrested. So now, if and this is what the citizen should be encouraging, for us not to encourage the war. You just need to encourage the chief of general staff, the army, if they want to do the right thing. The right thing is to arrest Salva Kiir, other leaders working with him, and stop them. Then you give chance for the army for a couple months to organize election and allow election. That's how other countries, they are doing it. That's the right thing when there is crisis like this, and you don't want to hurt your innocent people. You don't want to destroy your country. You want just to solve the problem. This is how you do it. That's why I bring a case of 2017 of Zimbabwe, that in Zimbabwe, a dictator acting like Kiir was actually removed in this way. A dictator who arrested his, I think most of you know Robert Mugabe, he arrested his vice president, same way like Salva Kiir. And then when he arrested the vice president, he promoted his own family to take over because he was prepared to actually die. He became very old. So most people, most dictators, that's what they do. Now, with this, in our case, if we wanted to solve this problem correctly, we have to make a model, like Zimbabwe model. It's very good for us. So that means the National Army has to arrest all those politicians in Juba and put them whether house arrest, and then take charge, and then you stop the war. Okay? That is what I think can serve our country right now from this crisis. I don't know what you think, but this is what I think. So thank you very much. Please share it.